Hello and welcome to Your New Jersey. I'm Lisa Marie Falbo. On today's show, we'll learn about One All the Way, an award-winning documentary set in Paterson. But first, the Symposia Community Bookstore is a public benefit nonprofit in Hoboken that provides a cozy space to read, have fun, and connect with members of the community. Here with me now to discuss more about this unique bookstore is their manager, Carmen Rousseau. Welcome to the show, Carmen.
Thank you for inviting me.
So Symposia Bookstore is such a staple to Washington Street in Hoboken. Tell us how it got started.
A group of people who had a vision and resources put their resources together, and their intention was to build community in Hoboken. They wanted to create a bookstore that is more than a bookstore. It's a living room where people can meet for different reasons and create community. So they hired my husband, who is a social worker. Among the leading people that started this was Rod Colburn and Monte Salin. They hired my husband, Cornelio Russo, to develop all kind of community activities here. And here is how we started in 2001.
2001. Believe it or not, that's over 20 years ago. So talk about the past 20 years and how your bookstore has evolved to be a go-to place for Hoboken.
So we started, the founding fathers found a tiny place on Willow Avenue, and we joined the team. And after 2 years, it was not so much visibility there on Willow, but somebody who would come to our events told to the former mayor at that time, David Roberts, about us, and who had this space on Washington Street available at that time. And he liked what we were doing, David Roberts, and he invited us to come here with the same rent that we would pay there, which is a fraction of the rent that we would be charged on Washington Street. He agreed to let us use this space. So I think we owe him a lot. We wouldn't be on Washington Street without him.
What type of books do you have in stock?
So we have all kinds of books. Actually, this bookstore is a reflection of what Hoboken reads. It's a sociological experience when you come here because everything is donated by the community. We curate the books, and we have a lot of fiction and a large section of biography and history nonfiction and philosophy and children books. You can see some sections are larger than others. It's whatever people donate to us, and we give tax deductible receipts to them. So we are a product of Hoboken community here, literally.
Yeah, yes, you are. Talk about the local artists that are in and around Hoboken.
So we had for a few years our monthly exhibit. It was Hob Art called. I'm not sure if it's still on now, but Liz Cohen, who was leading it at that time, organized this. Every month we had on our shelves, on our walls, different artists featured. So monthly exhibits that started with reception. And it was quite a lot of energy around this project. At this moment, we are just having occasional art receptions, and especially when we have Art and Music Festival in Hoboken, artists who reach to us, we offer the space for a limited period of time. They can invite their friends, have a kind of open mic, and this is regarding artists. But we have many other activities beside artists.
Tell us about the other activities you provide for the community.
We have book clubs. We have board game clubs. We starting actually tonight. We are starting a philosophy club. based on Philosophize This podcast by Stephen West. We have parties, potluck style, for volunteers. We work with a lot of volunteers who enrich our landscape tremendously through their contributions. And we have parties like we had a holiday party, Halloween party. Everybody brings food and we talk and get to know each other. It's really a spirit of community that is developing here. It's so beautiful.
You know, Carmen, I don't know if you remember this, but I had met you in person back in 2017. I had just released my novel 10 years later, and I was living in Jersey City. And when I was putting together my mini book tour, Symposia was one of my stops. And I really loved the cozy environment and the way the community came out and supported me promoting the book and doing the book reading and asking so many great questions. So I know firsthand how special Symposia is. Can you talk about the other success stories that you have heard along the way?
So actually, our intention is to create community in Hoboken by any means, especially cultural in this case. But I wanted to mention you a living proof of creating community is we have 3 couples who met at our events and are still together. And
oh,
we had
I'd love to hear that.
a wedding. We had here a wedding in the bookstore because they met in the bookstore and they liked so much the environment that they had a wedding here. So yeah, it's I think in this day and age, it's hard. People are away from their families, their tribe, and people who love to read. It's a great opportunity to meet other fellow humans who like the same thing. And through our activities, it's so rewarding to see people saying, "Oh, Symposia changed my life since I came here to volunteer. I met so many friends," and it's the most rewarding job that I've ever had in my life.
You also use the bookstore as a space for other charities and nonprofit organizations to meet. Why is that important to you to open up your space for those entities?
We are a charity, but we understand how hard it is to be a nonprofit. So we are, through our unique location, so visible here, we can make visible many other charities who don't have a location. And we give them a space, we give them a day in which they can advertise and invite friends and make this their space for a day or for a week or for whatever time we decide. And it's like, I guess, the principle of paying it forward.
How do you sustain Symposia? I mean, I know that rent on Washington Street can't be cheap. So where do you get your funds from?
Yeah. So the most important donor that we have is Mayor David Roberts. Secondly is the generosity of the people in Hoboken who are reading a lot, and the apartments are small and they move and they are on the move all the time. So they buy books from other bookstores, read them, and then they donate it to us. Actually, we survived Barnes & Noble. Barnes & Noble closed, but we are still here because people buy books and then they donate to us, and we sell also online and in the bookstore. And this is another source. Another important source is the human capital. We advertise all the time that we are looking for volunteers and we give free books to volunteers. So I'm the only one employed and everything is done with volunteers, and it is amazing.
Where can people go and find out more about the bookstore and the work that you do?
So we have our website, symposia.us, and we have Facebook, Symposia Bookstore. And our phone number, 201-805-1739. And I wanted to mention something else. We developed a puppet show for babies and toddlers in 2006, because in the mornings, the bookstore was mostly empty. So we started with book reading, story hour, and then we developed a small puppet theater. So we have here puppet shows in the morning. 2 days a week, papetonia.com.
That is such a good idea because there are a lot of young families in Hoboken, and it's great for you to capitalize on that.
Yes.
All right. Well, Carmen, thank you so much. Best of luck to you. Here's to the next 20 years and beyond.
Thank you. I appreciate.
One All the Way is a documentary that tells the story of how three men's search for the best Texas wiener fits in with the recent struggles of Paterson, New Jersey. Joining me now to tell us more is David Barham, the movie's director. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, David.
Thanks for having me.
I think this concept is so cool, yet meaningful to the community that you're highlighting. What gave you inspiration to make this documentary?
I was born in Paterson, grew up in the Paterson area, and my dad in particular, but my parents took me to a place called Falls View, which is over near the Great Falls of Paterson my whole life, and really didn't travel much as a kid. So when I finally went away to college up in the Boston area, it was really the first time that I realized nobody knew what a hot Texas wiener was. And I had the same experience when I moved to LA. And many years ago, right before I moved to Los Angeles, I found a New Jersey Monthly article about the history of the hot Texas wiener. And so whenever I'd come back and visit, or I have friends visit in North Jersey, I'd take them to the Falls View or Hot Grill or one of the great hot Texas wiener places. And I thought, at some point, I carried that article around for years and thought at some point I need to kind of educate the world about this delicacy that I grew up eating. And in fact, we were involved in producing a film called The Irishman, Martin Scorsese's film, much of which was shot in Paterson. And we'd have some crew members who would come back to LA and say, I had this crazy thing called the hot Texas wiener. And that was sort of the needle, if you will, that was the final straw that broke the camel's back on needing to do something. And so when I began to research the doc, really came to appreciate that you could not tell the story of a hot Texas wiener without telling the story of the city of Paterson. And that's how it sort of all came together.
Those LA people, they probably enjoyed more food than just the hot Texas wiener, right? Because I don't think California food compares to what we got going on here.
Yeah, there's you're right. I think they loved it. And although I think they're used to it because there's so much shooting going on in Jersey now with Netflix building the new studio, the tax credit laws are super attractive for filming in Jersey at the moment. My second film that I shot after One All the Way, which stars Austin Pendleton, we shot in Hoboken. So I think Jersey's becoming one of the hot spot production locations in the country now.
Tell us the connection between the hot Texas wiener and Paterson, because that is just such a unique combination.
Yeah, like other delicacies in other part of the countries. I mean, it just really grew around Paterson, the Paterson Falls in particular, and never expanded successfully beyond that, which is why really only people at Paterson know about it. But the origin was, as you know, Paterson, or we from Jersey know, most people the rest of the country don't know, Paterson was the most important industrial city in the US. When the founding fathers were looking for the capital, obviously they eventually decided on DC. And when Alexander Hamilton was trying to decide where the industrial center would be based, he and his team decided on Paterson because they were going to harness the power of the waterfalls of the city. And then that's where much critical industry really started: the arms manufacturing, locomotive manufacturing, silk, apparel, and so forth. And then to fuel all of that, obviously you needed an enormous amount of labor. And so Paterson, outside of New York City, became the leading destination of immigrant labor in the late 18th, early 19th century. And as we touch upon in the documentary, you needed to feed people with quick, convenient, cheap, good tasting food. And there was a gentleman, John Petraeus, who, George, I forget his first name, started the first hot Texas wiener stand in 1920 in the Paterson Hotel. And then it grew dramatically since then. So that's why all the original hot Texas wiener grills were right around the waterfalls. You had three major grills that people who are fans of them know the iconic three, which was Libby's, Falls View, and the Olympic, all from really the same family, started around the falls to really feed all those factory workers.
How come it's called the hot Texas wiener and not the hot, I guess, Patterson wiener?
Yeah, it's a good question. We touch upon it in the doc. The legend is that gentleman that I just mentioned that started it in 1920 had a hot dog stand, and then he happened to travel with some family to Texas and discovered the concept of chili. And I guess it was his idea to put the hot dog he was serving, which was this lamb encased beef hot dog, deep fried, right? That's the real characteristic of a hot Texas wiener. It's got to be deep fried. And then he had the idea of mashing it together with this chili sauce that he was Greek inspired. So it wasn't the traditional Texas chili. It was a beanless chili. And he, I don't know if it was a marketing concept or what, but he called it the hot Texas wiener, and it's stuck ever since.
Well, what was your favorite go-to Texas wiener joint?
Well, mine, as we feature in the documentary, we show the family tree of how all of the grills really started from that one guy. And then both Libby's, but ultimately Falls View. So Falls View was an iconic grill right next to the falls. It was started by four gentlemen, and pretty much all of the famous grills we now know of either came from one of the family members of those four gentlemen, two Italians and two Greek guys, or people that worked at Falls View. And that was where I went growing up. My dad actually proposed to my mom at Falls View. We talk about that in the film as well. And so that was always my favorite. Sadly, it's not there anymore. So when I go back home, I have to, and they're still great. I'll either visit Hot Grill or Goffle Grill, which is in Hawthorne.
Why call it One All the Way?
Well, that is the most traditional way the hot Texas wiener is served. One of the really cool things about these Texas wiener grills is the language that's used inside the grills. Usually when you're ordering, it's nothing like going to any of the current fast food chains. There's no, in most cases, at least no video monitors communicating the orders back to the folks in the back. And when these places are crazy busy, they got to communicate the orders really fast. So there's all this weird lingo that is really, only known to the folks that are working in and operating the grills. And the term One All the Way is a hot Texas wiener with everything on it, which means you're getting the chili sauce, you're getting the mustard, you're getting the full serving of onions on the hot dog, and then of course the sort of steamed chewy roll. So that entire concoction is called One All the Way. And if you wanted, for example, no onions, which is the way I order it, because I don't want to smell like onions the entire day. You don't say I want a hot dog with no onions. You just literally go up to the counter and say one no onion, and so they know that means one all the way minus the onions. So it's a whole ordering process, which is really neat and is rooted in history, and we cover a bit during the documentary.
So how long has the movie been out?
The tail end of 21, so a little over a year ago. And we're very fortunate that the film not in Jersey, but really around the country, was I could say to my own surprise, was just really well received, because even though folks don't know the hot dog, it really just touches on issues of aging and isolation and a connection we have with our parents or grandparents. And then of course, each part of the country has their own unique delicacy that probably has some element of history behind it. And so we won, I think we're up to 17 Best Film Awards. We got Oscar qualified. We didn't get nominated for an Oscar, but we were Oscar qualified. Eventually got picked up by PBS. I think it airs on PBS 3 times this month. And like I mentioned, we'll be screening. And then the film just got recognized as best film by a film festival in North Jersey. And so in March, we'll be screening at and a lot of the cast will be there as well, and crew at the Hawthorne Theater in Hawthorne, New Jersey. So it's had an extended run, and we've kind of moved on to a couple of other projects, which has been a wonderful experience. But I kind of think of it in some ways that the film that won't die, because it just, again, I can't tell you how many emails or calls we get from people around the country who, oh, my parents grew up in Paterson, or my grandparents grew up in Paterson, and they took me here or there. And so it's nice to see it resonate in different ways with so many people, even outside of New Jersey.
Have people outside of New Jersey that have seen the movie, connected with it, traveled to Paterson to try one of these hot Texas wieners?
I've absolutely taken people who have, the leading film festival in Iowa, one of the leading film festivals in San Francisco. We've had people who are like, hey, next time in Jersey, I'd love for you to take me. And, people say that and you don't expect them to take them up, them to take you up on it. But sure enough, I've gotten those calls. And so I've taken people to Goffle Grill, Hawk Grill, a whole host of them. And I've Minnesota, somebody came down from Minnesota to go. So, and fortunately, it's always lived up to their expectations, so which is great.
What did they feel about the city of Paterson? Were they expecting what they saw?
Yeah, I think we document it pretty well in the film, even though it's a short. And so I think it was pretty consistent with what they envisioned. But, both the strength and the sad parts of it. There's nothing when you see urban blight and you experience it firsthand. It's not quite the same as when you're just reading about it or seeing pictures of it. So, I think that those were like moving experiences for those folks. But at the same time, one of the things people are always amazed by, the Paterson Falls are the largest waterfall south of Niagara. It's like there's just no conception. Even I growing up in the area, I never fully appreciated it until I went back, nor the history of Paterson till I started researching the documentary. So it's like, here you go in the middle of what seems like this most nowhere or innocuous area, and you see these incredible, waterfalls. So I think that's also one of the things that has really struck people when they visited, or we've taken them on tour for the first time.
Absolutely. Well, before we end this segment, I want to learn about you, because you mentioned how you worked on The Irishman. You have a lot of other films in production. Tell us about you and your career.
Let's see. I'll keep it really short. I grew up in a, like I mentioned, born in Paterson, grew up in North Haledon, went to Manchester High School, came from an awesome family, but nobody had gone to college before. So, I was pushed to do the right thing, went to college and law school, became a lawyer, came out to LA where I practiced a lot of media and entertainment law, and then had a little bit of an entrepreneurial bug. And then we started what has become really arguably the leading management company in the industry. So our company, which we name after where I go down to the Jersey Shore, LBI Entertainment, Long Beach Island, and we manage the careers, or fortunate to manage the careers of artists such as Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio, Justin Timberlake, with my incredible colleagues, leading manager in the industry, Rick Yorn, who grew up in Montclair, and to Jennifer Lawrence and a whole host of others. And then from there, Chris Angel, and produced executive produced a bunch of television, starting with a show called Chris Angel Mind Freak. It was this crazy show about this amazing magician, Chris Angel, for years. And then from there, really started to write and direct our own projects, as well as producing our clients' projects. So that's really one all the way. And then did a film called Ball and Vase, which is also on the festival circuit. We were fortunate. Looked like it had a good chance for an Oscar nomination. Not going to happen likely, but starring Austin Pendleton. And that was a scripted project we shot in North Bergen and Hoboken. And then about to go, we hope to be in production on a feature film, as I think we were talking earlier about, it takes place on a farm in Iowa, but I'm pretty committed to, if we can pull it off, shooting it in Jersey, because I think you can make parts of Jersey, the Garden State farmland, feel like you could be on an Iowa farm. So our plan for that is to shoot that beginning this summer in July.
Where can people find out more information and see One All the Way?
Best place to go is either on Instagram, One All the Way Movie, or at One All the Way Movie, or the website, which is oneallthewaymovie.com. And or you can search for it on one of your favorite streamers. But if you go to our Instagram, Instagram is where we have everything most updated and where the upcoming screenings and film festivals and so forth are.
David, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks for having me.
Next week on Your New Jersey.
And so far, I'm thrilled to share we have impacted 1,400 households have already come in through our doors to engage with the Y.
We just recently opened up a community center in our neighborhood. So we're really just trying to make it to a safe haven.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of Your New Jersey. I'm Lisa Marie Falvo. We'll see you back here next week.